Hello and welcome to R&R's Ask the Expert. I'm Kayla McGowan, editor-in-chief, and today we're talking about the future of AI in restoration and how technology is transforming our industry. And if you haven't guessed it, my special guest is Alex Duta, CEO of Albiware. And of course, no intro needed. Everybody knows who he is, so we're just going to dive right in. Welcome, Alex.
Kayla, thanks so much for having me. And I'm super stoked to talk about my favorite topic within restoration here today.
I am too, and I think, before we hit record, we were talking about how much we see AI just discussed and like so many unanswered questions. And I think it gets a little stressful or like overwhelming for people who aren't just in that world. So, in the last year and a half or so, I think we've seen like a huge impact from AI already. And it's talked about it constantly, but I think you talk about it in a different light on a regular basis. So from your perspective, how has AI helped our industry so far? Like truthfully, none of that fluff that we hear a lot on the day to day.
Yeah. So I've been heavily investing in AI within restoration. In fact, sold all my real estate, sold basically everything I have to double down. And we're actually starting this experiment called Longview Restoration, which is the first AI powered restoration company. I say that not to brag, but to just show the market just how passionate about I am about this. I think in the 2000s we had like the dot-com boom and this we went from paper to servers. In the 2010s we had this mobile revolution where we started using cell phones and have access to information on our phones. In the 2020s it brought the agentic AI revolution, and it's changing the way value is being created within restoration businesses. So instead of us traditionally thinking of, oh, we're a restoration services company providing mitigation services to our customers, the companies that are going to win, the companies that are going to create massive value for themselves, for their customers and their employees, are going to be AI tech-enabled services companies that just so happen to produce water damage mitigation work. And it's happening right now. The basics of what's happening right now is essentially companies are standardizing knowledge or process by training AI bots and chatting with those AI bots to basically facilitate knowledge throughout the company. But the second thing that's very interesting is that we started getting to where actions are being streamlined with AI. So people are building these little gremlins, I like to call them, which are AI bots that are doing various things within their business, and they're starting to eat up all that work that employees don't like to do, like job file auditing, for example, like sending messages to customers, for example, like providing insights on our BDRs and what kind of route stops they did, and if they did proper route spots, proper discovery and stuff like that. So I don't know if that answers your question, but essentially it restorations being rewritten. Those who transform their service offering to a tech-enabled service offering will be rewarded. Those who don't adapt will probably have a hard time keeping up in the next 5 to 10 years.
No, I think you really hit that one out of the park. And I would say too, like in the way that I see it personally is we're just scratching the surface in the AI world right now, right? There's so many
100%.
layers to it. And I think let's master the basics or the first couple of layers, which is using chatbots and training your staff and things like that. But to your point, there's going to be other layers that we will uncover. Some have already started to uncover those, like yourself. And it's going to be part of the business, just like to your point, the smart devices, going away from paper, it's going to become normal, if you will. So with that being said, I think one of the things that I hear you and your team say often is, you just need to embrace AI, right? You just embrace it. It's not a trend. We know it's not going to go away, but as a core part of like future-proofing your business, like how do you do that efficiently and effectively?
Yeah, so it's very easy to just go say, "Oh, I'm embracing AI and I'm going and just chatting with ChatGPT." Just like, restorers think that adopting technology means that you're using a DocuSign versus a full suite of systems. So I think we should stay away from the fluff and actually point AI, the tool, at problems versus just using the tool just for the sake of using tools. And I actually have a matrix, and the way I think about it is I think of two different axes, right? You could think of the x-axis of the matrix as how much value does it bring the company, and you think of all the actions that basically bring the company value or don't bring the company value. And then the other quadrant that I look at, or the y-axis, is basically does it light employees up and make employees happy. And you start looking at your business, analyzing your business, and the areas of the business that don't bring the business value and don't make employees happy, you shouldn't go apply AI to that. you should just eliminate those things from your business, right? It's a fluff to add on. And like the example I give, which is rather controversial, is how many times have we had perfect documentation and we still got beat up by the adjuster and we still don't get paid? And the reality is, yes, there's all these technologies and AI tools that are streamlining documentation, but the reality is, it doesn't matter how good your documentation is, you're still going to fight the same battle with the insurance adjuster. So those are examples of areas that I would not apply AI on. But things that our employees don't enjoy doing, but it brings the company a ton of value, those are areas where I would start with AI. So, for example, job file coordinators don't like reviewing files. It is literally the Achilles heel of a team coordinator. They like talking to customers, they like making customers happy. They hate flipping through 50 or 100 different jobs to find the problem job, and they honestly don't want to talk about the problem job. So that's where you build an AI bot, like a job file auditor, that can go through those files. And then on the top side of the quadrant is things that bring the company massive value and also light up employees. That's where you pair up a human plus an AI to work together. So one thing that we built at Longview is this customer concierge bot that talks to the customer and keeps them in the loop and asks them to get paid and such on behalf of the team coordinator. So now the team coordinator can hop in the chat, do their job, but then on top of that, they're supercharged by AI. So those redundant tasks that they might not like doing as a part of the follow-up process, they're not doing, but the stuff that they should be doing and they love doing, they have there. And ultimately, what all this does is it frees up more time on our employees and our team members side, so that way they could do stuff that they enjoy doing. Um, so yeah, that's how I would look at application of AI, is just do a quick audit of your business, look through what are the tasks, and then point AI to be a painkiller or a tool to solve the problem. Don't just embrace AI for the sake of calling yourself a tech-enabled restorer, and don't become an AI tourist or an AI junkie.
No, that's really well said because this brings me to my next question, which I know you see it. I see it all the time. Like, do I need to implement AI into every part of my business or all of my workflow? I think is a big topic of conversation quite frequently. And then you go into the comments and it's like a plethora of just like advice. And not all of it is bad advice, but it makes you just like panic a little bit for the person that asked the question. So, what areas, and I know you already kind of touched on this, but what additional areas should they prioritize first? Like in the field, I guess is a great
Mm-hmm.
question opposed to like what you just use as an example that would make an immediate difference for restorers today.
Yeah, so again, don't apply AI for the sake of AI or for the project to apply it through all your workflows of your business. Apply it to change the way your business is. So an example I give to people is currently we're in the blockbuster era of um, basically restoration tech. So essentially, Blockbuster offered DVDs that they would ship to people to watch movies. Netflix came along and they rewrote the entire story. They essentially said, hey, look, we don't need to do it this way. We're going to do it this other way, and now everybody got access to the same product and service in a tech-enabled way. Um, in the field, I would ask myself the question of what are things that are important to the customer experience that our technicians aren't doing currently or don't enjoy doing, and how can we take those things off their plate, right? So when I think of like technology within the field, our technicians don't like doing moisture monitoring, for example, right? So are there any sort of type of tools where our technician, instead of sitting around and clicking clunky boxes in like Amica, for example, they could chat with a chat bot and we can capture that information? What are different redundant tasks like scanning pieces of equipment in and out of projects that our technicians don't like doing? Could we apply something like Kahi, for example? It's not AI yet, but it's this concept of it's a tech that takes away an outcome from our technician versus giving them one.
Yeah.
I think the future in the field is going to be really badass. I'm seeing the emergence of robotics. Tesla just launched the humanoid bot. It's not up for sale, but I am on the wait list. The minute they sell that, I'm going to buy a humanoid bot and train it. But if we're looking at a lot of tedious tasks that technicians do, AI powered robots could help enhance the technician experience. And then what happens is now that technician is really there for what their superpower is, making the customer happy, having that interpersonal connection with the customer, and also doing those specific tasks that only humans could do. And then they're going to be a lot happier and a lot more expressed.
No, that's Well said. You put that into perspective, I think, there too, because it can be overwhelming, but there is technology that not is necessarily not AI yet, to your point. But there are ways to make our workflow a lot more seamless, and save us a lot of time. AI may not be there all the way, but it will be. We see it, we know that it's coming, so just embrace it and be a little curious before it rolls out. I think that's kind of my thing is don't wait until it's already here because then you're too late. Like truly, you're too late at that point. But you know, there's several layers, as I mentioned earlier, and we're only going to keep peeling them back. So just embrace it, but also be a little optimistic. I think that's another thing is don't see it as a roadblock, see it as a benefit to your business and how you can make it, you know, work for you. Not everything is going to work the same for everybody. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've personally taken away from that. AI is not going to work the same for me as it is for you because our business models are different, right? And I think that's what people need to really take into consideration. So, we all know the claims process is such a hot topic. You just touched on it. But platforms like Cotality and Verisk are investing heavily in AI. It is no secret. They have talked about it openly at their conferences. So, how do you think that restorers can use AI to improve the claims process and enhance their day-to-day operations? And I think you mentioned, you know, inventory. Potentially in some of the documentation, it might be able to identify stuff. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think for the restoration industry, and I know Verisk and Cotality talk a lot about AI. It is a great buzzword to talk about, but I also know that they're very restricted within the claims ecosystem from applying AI just because the claims ecosystem is heavily regulated and there's a lot of data privacy behind there. So, like, I don't foresee the insurance claim ecosystem keeping up very fast with modern trends within AI, meaning that we have an unfair advantage. Restorers who apply agentic AI workflows and are able to basically put together a playbook that they teach an AI bot on, like, what are the different carriers doing, what are the different SLAs, what works, what doesn't work. We'll be able to move a lot faster than the carriers would be because we're not as regulated. And I think in our end, if we're looking at the claims process, the first reason why restorers don't get paid is purely the fact that their workflow isn't streamlined. It's not consistently being happening. So in my book, Restoration Millionaire, I talk about the 48-hour rule. Like, we should be touching all materially interested parties every 48 hours. But unfortunately, we don't have the manpower to do that. I think agentic AI could help because, again, as we're seeing it at our restoration companies, we're able to have AI bots reach out and follow up with adjusters and start intercepting those things. So that's a huge plus that we have. I also think that there's tools like Actionable Insights that are working within the claims process. If you use, and they're AI powered, if you use them, you can write better scopes. We're tinkering around with ideas of how can we convert a geospatial model into an Xactimate estimate. And I think that is here. I mean, rebuild.work does that right now within the ecosystem. So in essence, we're going to become a lot more powerful, a lot more efficient, and a lot stronger. And we're probably going to get a competitive edge against the insurance companies within the claims ecosystem, which is very exciting because I think it's for the first time in restoration history, we see restorers having a competitive edge. And again, another reason why the only people that are going to get that edge are the restorers that adopt it. Those that don't are obviously going to fall behind. And then they're going to have the typical, let's throw humans at the problem and let's have auditors, file auditors, file auditors, auditing adjusters who have file auditors and file auditors. So,
Yeah, no, those are really great points. And I also think too, we can again use it as a competitive advantage, but also as an industry advantage, right? Because we do have control of it, essentially, is what I gathered from what you just said too. We can control that pace and that narrative, which hasn't been something we've been able to do for actually ever, I think is kind of where
yep.
we're going with this. And so I think it's really, really important for us to just, again, embrace it, and ask the questions, but also don't blindly take everybody's advice. Do your own research, I think is another thing. Like everybody has advice when there's a question thrown into the air, right? But it's your due
Yep.
diligence as a restorer, owner, operator, technician to kind of do your own investigating and lean on people like yourselves, you know, at Albiware to answer the questions. Let's be real here. So I think the last question that I have for you is a little bit more specific. We kind of talked about it in the previous question, but you know, We handle a lot of large losses or some of them more natural than others, but I know fires have been like a bigger topic. We're seeing them all over. Florida's on fire at this moment right now. How do you think AI will help those types of processes, and workflows move forward a little bit more efficiently? And it could be as simple as, automating your processes, having a checklist. And I think that's where we'll find success. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think fires and the larger the loss and the more of the home it affects, the more empathy it requires of us restorers. And because of the operational bottleneck, especially those that do TPA work and the boxes that we have to check, I think both insurance adjusters and restoration contractors lack the empathy needed to provide help and support to a homeowner that's literally lost everything. So I think with the introduction of agentic AI, it could take a lot off of our people, our team members, and our employees' plates, and it could allow them to be more compassionate and actually take care of these customers. Because a lot of the things that we deal with, we can't just throw logic at. So, for example, like a classic example when it comes to fires is the psychological odor that humans deal with. So you'll clean a house, you'll run ozone, you'll do all this. It clearly doesn't smell like smoke, but the homeowner walks back in, and that homeowner still feels like the house smells like smoke, right? And it's been proven that it's just a psychological imprint that that homeowner has, and a simple thing like, hey, just go wipe the wall down a little bit more and make them feel heard and make them feel special goes a long way throughout that process. So as we think of AI, as we think of it taking stuff off, we have to think of like, what does it empower us to do? And I think it allows us as humans and as restorers to be even more human. And in the large losses where you're literally dealing with catastrophic loss, where a person lost everything, the biggest advantage is we could actually be there for them. And I know, if we look at the ecosystem between insurance carriers and restorers, the people that are actually going to spend time with Mrs. Jones in her kitchen and the people that are actually going to be truly empathetic are the restorers. And that's what excites me, because I know that Mrs. Jones, the American homeowner, will get the support that she deserves. And yeah, a byproduct of that is tech.
No, 100%. I would definitely say I would, our homeowners are more aware these days.
Yep.
And so we're also in the instance or era of instant gratification.
Yep.
And so if there's a question or they need something that is requires emotion, they want it now. They don't want to
Yep.
wait. And so if we're able to leverage technology to your point, leverage it because now you're making that connection a little bit deeper than otherwise it may have not been, right? If we're
Yep.
distracted or whatever the case may be. So, I think it's really important for those who are in the world of exploring or leveraging technology and AI, just, take Alex's advice, audit your own business. Like, don't just start throwing stuff. I think I've heard several times that, a lot of people purchase tech or AI or what have you, and then they don't leverage it because somebody just said it was a good product. So don't make
Yep.
those mistakes, right? They're costly, if you will. So one little thing I want to throw in that Alex does not know I'm going to announce on this podcast is Alex is our day two keynote for the experience this year.
Oh,
And if you would like to learn more about AI and technology, he's your guy, and you don't want to miss it on September 10th. So not to put you on the spot or anything, Alex, are you excited?
I am very excited. That's super awesome news. Thanks for delivering that. I'll have to make sure my trip from Europe makes it back into Las Vegas, right? That's where it's going to
Yes,
be.
Las
So,
Vegas.
yeah, I'll find a direct flight there. But thanks so much. That's great news.
Yes, we're super excited. We've been working with the team too, and I thought this would be a great way to kind of just announce it
Yeah.
to everybody and put you on the spot. I know you're used to it, but
Yeah.
um, this conversation was just the tip of the iceberg for that. I know you guys have some really cool stuff in the works, and just spreading the right information about technology and AI is something that our industry so desperately needs. And
Awesome.
we're super excited and pumped to have you take the stage and address some of those things. So
Yeah.
I don't have anything else. Do you have any closing thoughts or words?
Well, I'm excited for that speech. And what I promise everybody here is that there is going to be no fluff. And I'll actually just grab everything that we're doing and just share it with everybody. I'm like a very abundant mindset. By everything we're doing, I'm not necessarily talking about Albi. I'm talking about our actual restoration companies and their application, and give you the playbooks. Um, but the last thought that I want to leave everybody with is the true value prop of AI. Ultimately, and Russ Palmer and I talked about this over and over from Titan, but ultimately what AI enables us to do, which I'm super excited, is to drive more revenue with the same amount of employees. If we're able to drive more revenue, theoretically it should be just as profitable, if not more. So we're able to drive more profit per employee. If we're able to drive more profit per employee, we're then a lot able to compensate our employees even better. And there's a specific segment of the market, specifically the restoration technician, that I think is brutally underpaid within our market compared to like our brothers and sisters in the plumbing markets and so on and so forth. And even like the dichotomy that's happening within the world of like lawyers are great, so they should make more money, and technicians are, just cleaning up poop water, so they should make less. And what excites me the most about tech enabled restoration businesses is this idea and this truth that I think is going to happen. We're going to be able to rise the wage of our technicians. And mark my words, tech enabled restoration companies will compete against non tech enabled restoration companies because they probably in the next 5 years will be able to afford to pay $200,000 plus per year per technician. And that's my why. Like at the end of the day, like sure, as an owner, making money is great, but like you can only eat with so many mouths, right? But if you're able to empower your employees, and if you're able to say that, hey, the most entry level rung within our business has this high standard of living because they work with us and because we're forward thinking, that alone should be the reason why you should go all in and research everything and gobble up AI.
Yes, well said. And I would like to say we cannot stress how important our technicians are. The front line, they are our why, they are a reason we exist. So, if we can just pour into them a little bit more and leverage technology, I think everybody will be appreciative at the end of the day. Well, Alex, it is always a pleasure. Thank you for joining me today. And for all of you watching, we will see you on the next episode of Ask the Expert. Take care.